Hello and welcome back. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana, and you are watching Marksman TV. Today I have a tabletop review and comparison for you with the brand new Glock Model 44 22 long rifle and a Generation 4 Glock 19. We are going to move through a point-by-point comparison of the two, so if you are considering picking up a Glock Model 44 as a training implement to go along with your Glock Model 19, you will see exactly how close or how similar the two models are. Anyway, if that all sounds interesting to you, please stick around. That's coming up now. Okay, let's go ahead and start here with an unboxing, starting here with the Generation 4 Glock 19. Now, you do get the handgun in a hard plastic case, and it does come with 3 magazines, a speed loader, interchangeable back straps, safety lock, cleaning rod, and brush, and that's that. Now, the Glock Model 44 is going to be in the exact same box, packaged the exact same way, with everything the same, including the same back straps, but it does only come with 2 magazines, not 3. Glock 19 has 15 rounds of 9mm. The Glock 44 comes with 2 magazines, each holding 10 rounds of 22 long rifle. Okay, so let's move through a spec comparison of the two, but first I'm going to quickly brush over why I chose to use a Generation 4 instead of a Generation 5 Glock 19. As we will see in this review, the Model 44 here is going to be stylistically and sort of have the type of controls and overall look of a Generation 5 Glock 19. However, the Gen 4 Glock 19 has been out on the market for a lot longer than a Gen 5, and I'm assuming that there are more of these in people's collections, so it's going to serve as a better basis for comparison. Now, I will, as I go through it, point out the differences that you will find on a Gen 5 19 that do share in contrast to the Model 44, so I am going to go over those details as well. So this will also serve as a good reference point for the generational differences between the 4 and the 519. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump into the specs. So they both have a barrel length of 4 inches, an overall length of 6.85 inches, and an overall height of 5.04 inches. So they are exactly the same in size. We are going to notice a weight difference. That'll be the biggest difference between the two, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, I have the Glock 19 here with an empty magazine inserted. Our overall weight is 1 pound 7.6 ounces. And the Model 44, 14.7 ounces. So there is a very considerable, so you can see that I know there's some glare. There is a very considerable weight difference. So when you are training, you're going to have to take into account that, you know, the sort of the lack of translation of the weight of the firearm, but that is going to be mainly because of the slide being polymer. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the slides now, and you can kind of get an up close look at the differences. So the slide on the Generation 4 Glock 19 is machined from a single piece of bar stock, and they do use a gas nitride finish on these. Now in the Generation 5, they do use an NDLC ion bond coating, and one of the differences is on the Gen 5, you're going to see the beveling up here at the front of the slide, which is going to be the same on the Glock 44, which I will show you in a second. There are rear slide serrations, but none up here at the front. Now, on Gen 4s and Gen 5s, you can get the models with slide serrations up at the front if you want. Roll markings on this side, serial number, Glock roll marking on this side. Now moving up to the top, you do have your sights in a U-dot configuration. The sight bases are polymer and they are non-adjustable. You can they are dovetailed, so you can drift them left or right for windage adjustment here in the back, but not elevation, and it's fixed up here at the front with a pin that goes in through underneath the slide. You do have a loaded chamber indicator on this side. It is part of the extractor, so when there is a round gripped in there that does protrude slightly, you can feel that with your finger to know that you do have a round in the chamber. Now, the Glock 44 slide is identical in dimension, but it is polymer, not metal, so that's where pretty much all of that difference in the weight is. You do have front side serrations here, which we didn't see on the other one, but of course you can get a Gen 4 or Gen 5 Glock 19 with those serrations if you want, of course using those for press checking or anything you want to do there. Now, the sights at the top are also polymer as well. They're going to be very similar to a standard Glock 19 sight setup, where it is pinned up here in the front and dovetailed in the back, but you're going to notice the standard sights that come on the Model 44 are adjustable, and they are in a U-dot sight configuration. Now, there is a loaded chamber indicator on the Model 44, but it is not here. This is smooth. You don't have the ridge cuts like you do on a Generation 4 or 5 Glock 19, but there is a cutout here at the top so you can see the brass, sort of a visual indicator. Keep in mind, if the lights are out, you're not going to be able to use that to know if your chamber is loaded or not, like on the Generation 4, Generation 5 Glock 19, you can feel that ridge. But this is really going to be mainly a training pistol, sort of the practical application. So unless you're doing nighttime shooting, that should not be an issue for you. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the trigger, starting with the trigger pull weight here on the Glock 19. And we have a weight of 6 pounds, 6.7 ounces. And on the Model 44, about 6 pounds even. So we are at about, what, a half a pound heavier on the trigger pull weight of the Glock 19. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a closer look at the triggers now. The trigger on the Glock 19 is polymer and does have the little trigger safety there, which is very common on all your Glocks that you're going to see. Now, trigger pull, we're going to go ahead and start pressing. There's a little bit of take up right there. You hit that wall, a little bit of sponginess there, go ahead and pull through. And we are at about, like I said, 6.5 pounds. Reset. Start letting off. Right there's a reset, pretty quick reset. Pull through. Break, one more time. Reset there. Do a break. Okay, let's look at the trigger on the Model 44. So it is polymer, just like on the 19. The little trigger safety there, exactly the same so far. Pull until you hit that wall is about the same. A little bit of sponginess there, indicative of a Glock trigger, but I'm actually fond of Glock triggers, so I'm used to it. But anyway, we hit that wall, pull through. Nice clean break, reset. Right there. I mean, the break to me feels a little bit sharper, a little bit more clean. Reset's about the exact same. We did notice on the scale about half a pound of difference, but to me, pretty negligible. Feels to me to be about the exact same trigger. Okay, let's look at disassembly, starting with the 19. So check that we are clear, and we are. Go ahead and break the trigger and pull back slightly on the slide, pulling down simultaneously on the two takedown tabs on either side of the frame, and then release. Here is your double guide rod and spring, your barrel, and that is field stripped. The Glock 44 is going to be exactly the same process. Just remove our mag and check we are clear, and we are. Break the trigger, pull back slightly on the slide, down on both of those tabs, and off. And there is, again, a double guide rod and spring. Looks identical to a standard, but I'm sure the weight's going to be way different. Barrel pops right out. Looks different. Of course, it's 22, but disassembly is identical. Now, number one question I know I'm going to get is, can I swap the slides in the frames? So let's go ahead and explore that. This is a Glock 22, or the 22 caliber, the Glock Model 44 frame with its slide, and the Glock 19 frame with its slide. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Glock 19 slide and see if I compare it to the Glock Model 44 frame. And I've done this earlier, and it does not fit. Can I take this and put it, more importantly, on the Glock 19 frame? It looks like it does, but unfortunately not. It's jumping up, and I cannot get it to mate successfully with the frame. I wish that Glock had figured out a way to design the 22 slide to fit with a standard frame. That would have been very intelligent in my opinion, because then they might be able to market the slide separate from an entire gun, but maybe Glock did not want to do that, obviously wanting to just sell a completed new unit, making a new model. Not really like Glock to come out with conversion kits or anything like that, otherwise they probably would have come out with carbines and stuff by now. So I understand why, or at least it's to be expected with Glock to not make a conversion kit or anything like that. So to answer those questions, as I'm sure they will come, they do not swap over. If you want the 22, the Model 44, you just got to go ahead and buy the complete gun, as of at least right now. Now let's look at the frames here, starting with the Glock 19. Other than a Generation 4 and 5 difference, they're going to be pretty much the same thing. They are polymer. You do have a reversible magazine release, either from left to right if you're a left or right-handed shooter. Now on the Generation 4, you have finger grooves. On the Generation 5, they deleted those. I'll show you that in a minute. Interchangeable back straps, we knew that we saw that in the unboxing part. Your guide rails here, keep these in mind. They are going to be pretty different from the 22. Maybe a reason that the two don't join up. Other than that, internally, the guns look very much the same. You have your steel reinforced parts where they need to be, guide rods, ejector, trigger bar, all that type of stuff. Nice, standard, good size trigger guard here with a rail section up here at the front. Very sort of standard affair. Now on the Model 44 frame here, it looks really just like a Generation 5 frame. No finger grooves. You do have that more aggressive stippling we saw in the Gen 4 with interchangeable back straps. You saw it in the unboxing. A beveled out base on the mag well, or the pistol grip where the mags sort of guide into. Now here on a Gen 5 you do have a slide stop on the other side. We did not see that on the Gen 4 19, but on the Gen 5 19 it does have that. Magazine release, just like on the 4 and the 5, is reversible. If you are a left or right-handed shooter, you're good there. Trigger guard contours of the same trigger. We notice is pretty much the same. You have the same rail section here at the front. Now bringing in both, and we'll look internally. Look right up here in this section is where you're going to see most of the differences, right there. But towards the back, you don't really see too much of a difference between the two. But like we saw, they do not join together though. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap this up with some takeaways. So based on looking at the two of these side by side, they are virtually the exact same package, aside from two basic things. One is the weight, because we do know we have a polymer slide here on the Model 44 and a steel slide on the 19. The difference obviously is also the caliber. So we have a 22 long rifle versus a 9mm. So other than that, they are virtually the exact same package. Now that leads me to believe the main practical purpose or application of something like a Glock 44 is to be used as a training implement to supplement your ownership of a Glock 19, and a Glock 23 is going to be the same size. And I'm sure they'll probably come out with a full-size version of this in the future for you Glock 17 and Glock 22 owners. Now, we've all been in situations where you take a new shooter or family member to the range, you want them to have a 22 firearm to sort of learn the ropes on so they're not getting scared off with higher recoil. Also, a 22 is going to be a lot more manageable, a lot more economical to shoot, and in some instances, of course, for new shooters, a lot more fun, especially, kids and people who have maybe had no experience with firearms in the past. So if you have a Glock 19, a great option to get somebody started off on, and then they can graduate up to the 9mm or the 40 or the 45 maybe later in the future if they come out with a Model 30 or 21 version of this package as well. Now, price point wise, a Generation 4 Glock 19 on the market right now is going to be about $500. Generation 5 is going to be about $550. Now, this is retailing right now at about $370 to $380. You probably find them as low as $350, $360, and I'm sure that they will level off a little bit in price as the novelty of this wears off. So let's go ahead and just round it off and say about $350. So as a training implement, a good secondary sidearm to something like this, the price is about right. Typically in the past, when Glock comes out with new products, the price is always a little bit higher. So this is the cheapest, this would be the least expensive brand new Glock that you can purchase as of right now. Now, there had previously existed a conversion kit for Glock 19s and 23s and 17s and 22s made by Advantage Arms. You could get that on glockstore.com. And those retailed at about $300, of course, plus shipping. So you could, what that essentially was an aluminum slide. It would come with, I believe, just one magazine. The slide, the barrel, and the spring, which you could then swap out on your Glock 19 or your Glock 17 to be able to fire 22 ammunition. Now that would retail again at about $300. Reviews on those were always great. People really enjoyed them as long as you used the manufacturer recommended ammunition, which is like CCI mini mags and stuff like that. People had really good results. So is this a viable replacement for something like that? In my opinion, I would say yes, because those are like $300. This is $350. I think most people would willingly pay an additional $50 just to get a all new platform dedicated to the 22 from the Glock line, going to maintain more of its resale value in the future and that sort of thing. Now, some people would be more than happy to save the $50 for just a kit that they can go ahead and put onto their existing firearm. And like I said, consumer reports on those have always been very good. They do work. Some people, for like a bug out application, might also like just having a conversion slide and spring and mag that they can put in their bag, because it's more, it reduces on weight and the size of something you have to carry, as opposed to completely second sidearm. But also people like to have the idea of the second sidearm because it is a standalone platform that somebody can pick up and use in an emergency. Also, it's another firearm that somebody at the range could be using while you are using your Glock 19. Also for training purposes, it is a good way since the feel, the trigger pull, the sights, the sight radius, everything's the exact same again except for the weight. So if you have a Glock 19, you can get a lot of trigger time practicing on this, and then when you move to your full size, maybe you are, God forbid, in a defensive scenario, all your training will pay off because everything about this, again, other than weight and recoil impulse, of course, is going to translate perfectly over to your standard EDC if you do carry a 19, or maybe it's your nightstand gun or anything like that. Very much a similar practicum that we saw on like the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 versus your standard traditional 5.56 AR-15. Anyway, guys, that is all the time I have for you today on these. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this video. If you enjoyed, please let me know by hitting that like button, and also consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell notification so you are aware when I am posting new content. If you have any questions, please leave those down in the comment section for me, and I will leave you there. I am Chris with Marksman Shooting Sports in Westfield, Indiana. You are watching Marksman TV, and I will see you next time.